the first speaker of the session. Dr. Prabhat is a postgraduate in economics and a PhD in applied economics. He obtained first position in the university in graduation and a university gold medal in post-graduation. He has been teaching economics at
post-graduate. 25%.
किसी का माइक ऑन है?
माला मैडम
म्यूट करो
प्लीज. माला मैडम प्लीज म्यूट योरसेल्फ.
कर दिया.
He has been teaching economics at postgraduate and undergraduate level for about 30 years in the universities and business schools in India and abroad, including 7 years in Bhutan, where he worked closely with the Center of Bhutan Studies on the subjects of happiness, trade, and poverty. Dr. Prabhat obtained executive education in management and leadership in higher education from Howard University, Boston, USA. He has published 5 books, 30 plus research papers, and he writes articles in Times of India and Economic Times, a leading national daily in India. Presently, Dr. Prabhat is serving as the director of Jaipur Institute of Management, Jaipur. Dr. Prabhat is an internationally acclaimed researcher on happiness, mindfulness, and well-being. He teaches courses on science of happiness, mindfulness, and well-being to these school students. His idea of teaching happiness is largely based on research in neuroscience, positive psychology, economics, and other social sciences. He was an invitee to the World Government Summit in 2019 in Dubai by the Ministry of Happiness, UAE. Dr. Prabhat received the title of National Unicorn of Happiness by the All India Council of Technical Education. Dr. Prabhat has been invited to deliver keynote addresses at various prestigious platforms like AACDS Asia Pacific Conference at Chulalongkorn University, Bangkok, World Trade Center's St. Louis, USA, Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai, Association of Indian Management Schools, to name a few. Dr. Prabhat has created a happiness lab wherein attendees can practice chakras-based meditation and get a software-generated report on energy flow, stress profile, and 7 chakras analysis. He uses day reconstruction method to suggest interventions for health and happiness. Dr. Prabhat recently delivered TEDx talk titled From Struggles to Smiles, which has received appreciation from the global audiences. Dr. Prabhat runs a blog post titled The Learner's Corridor, dedicated to research and experiments-based writing on student learning life and activity. So over to you, Prabhat sir, for deliberation.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me in this panel. First of all, I would like to start by showing my gratitude to the Honorable Chancellor, SVVB University, and our Guru, Dr. Upendra Dharji. Thank you so much, sir, for blessing me to be here. Madam Dhar, and of course, our friend Dr. Mandal, who has been kind enough to invite me for this. And I would like to also express my gratitude to the co-panelist, Sri Akhilesh Argalji. You have been doing a great job, and I had this opportunity of meeting you in Indore campus. We know each other, and we share similar kind of thoughts. And Sri MP Parikji, who will be in the panel. And one apology that, there is a curriculum meeting going on, and I just couldn't resist myself to spare from that meeting and attend this program and share my views. So I will have to go back to the meeting because it's a big meeting going on. So I'm demanded work. It's such a privilege to be here in this panel, and I attended the entire morning session, inaugural, and it was a brilliant, thought process which Swamiji has given, and my respect, my gratitude to Swamiji. The perspective that you have given is so valuable, and I would like to read more about it. What I'm going to talk about is, let me just share my small PPT with all of you, and this is about research-based interventions, because what I talk about in happiness is is all research backed. And today I have picked up to talk about a little bit about the neuroscience. I had this opportunity of getting trained at MIT, Boston, in their brain-based learning system. So this is one of the area which I'm exploring. And it's also directly related to my happiness laboratories. I'll also show you some results that we have got from the students after attending the happiness laboratory. So this is basically angle. So let's start with talking about the failure of well-being. So if you go by the research by Waldingers and others who have done the longest longitudinal studies on happiness, which is encompassing over 85 years, they have pointed out three things. The first is they say that is attention deficit is the main culprit, which is the reason for our loss of well-being. So this actually creates a lot of learning focus. So this is one area. Second is we talk about loneliness, and this actually creates lack of teamwork and even the social connect. Third is the absence of social fitness. So there are three types of fitness that they talk about, and Swamiji talked about four kind of fitness in a way. So that is true actually. So four kind of fitness is actually come from the body, mind, soul, heart, and soul, spiritual fitness. And the Western science, they talk about three kind of fitness. One is the physical fitness, then they talk about the mental fitness, the financial fitness, and then the mental fitness, and which comes from the social fitness. So Waldinger was asked this question: out of these three, if we have to pick up one fitness, which one is the most important? And he said, is the social fitness. So absence of social fitness can wreak havoc, and it creates a lot of anxiety, stress, and loss of purpose. And these are the main reason, almost like it explains 80-90% of the loss of well-being that we have. So let's build upon that. First is attention deficit. So attention deficit is, we know that, is our inability to focus on where we are. So our body is somewhere else, our mind is somewhere else, and mind has a constant chattering going on. So there are two minds that we carry all the time. One is what meets the eyes, and other is what is going on at the back of the mind. And if these two are not matching, you're in trouble, and your whole well-being will be trouble. A lot of Harvard medical research has actually proved that this kind of attention deficit can create a lot of stress, and stress is the root cause of all the physical ailment that we get. And therefore, there is a very close correlation between the physical problems in terms of any kind of diseases that we get, including cancer, and the attention deficit. How do we know that we have what kind of attention deficit? Is it serious? It's not very serious. I'll just give you an example to understand your kind of attention deficit. You can check it. So suppose you have picked up a book and then you started reading the book. You have read the first page, you have gone to the second page, and by the time you have gone to the third page, you have completely forgotten what was written on the first page. If that happens to you, this means you have a large attention deficit. And then another thing is that another indication you can choose is your inability to live without a mobile. So you always go back to the mobile and check the message and use it, even without given the fact that you have just checked it and there is nothing very important that might have come in a flash, but your mind always tells go back, check. If that happens to you, that means you're suffering from attention deficit. So you need to actually check that. Why? Because the wandering mind is not a happy mind. That comes from the research. So if your mind is wandering all the time and there is a large attention deficit, it's not a happy mind. So there is a problem over there. And this Harvard paper, if you look at, it talked about the demise of BlackBerry in the market. And then he said that the demise of BlackBerry couldn't survive because there was a lack of human movement in this organization. So what is this human movement they talk about? They said that, good people will leave and those who will remain in your organization will be unhappy if you don't know how to talk to people. And if there is a lack of human movement in dealing with people. And the fundamental thing that you have to do is to turn off your BlackBerry. That means you have to get away from your mobile, close your laptop, end your daydream, and pay full attention to the person. So if you're not able to do that, then you lose the social connect. And if there is a social connect loss because of the attention deficit, and these are the features of that, this means that your business is going to suffer, you're going to suffer, your relationship is going to suffer, you will face a lot of stress, and that's how your life is going to be in trouble, and a lot of well-being loss is going to be there. So this is very important for the companies, it's very important for the individuals, very important in our life. The second point is loneliness. Now, loneliness is very interesting because these days, if you look at this US Surgeon Report 2023, it says that it's almost like a pandemic, kind of epidemic for us. An interesting point is that the loneliness is as powerful as cigarette smoking. That's how the science says. It's almost like smoking half packet per day. The kind of harm half packet cigarette can do to you, this is the kind of harm your body will get if you think that you're lonely, right? It can cause blood pressure, it can cause obesity. So broader social network is very important. And this is different from the networking. So in the corporate world, we have this new notion of networking, but networking is not solving the problem of loneliness. Why? Because if you look at this Gallup survey, the Gallup survey actually asked almost like 1.5 crore employees and asked this very interesting question: do you have a best friend at work? And only 30% of the employees have said that they have a best friend at work. And interestingly, those who have the best friend at work, these employees were found to have better engagement with customers. They produced higher quality work. They are less likely to get injured on the job. And almost half of the CEOs said that they feel lonely. So this is a serious issue that we have to, and that's the reason why Waldinger said that social fitness is number one priority that we should have. And this is the work Waldinger has done. And this is one of the largest longitudinal studies available. It's continuing for 85 years. So this study actually started in 1930s, carried on for the whole generation of 269 individuals. And then now they are studying their sons, their daughters. So it's a second generation study going on. So Waldinger is actually the second generation of resource person for this study. So he is talking about the deep relationship and the relationship between the humans and the well-being, right? So and he has his finding. But the question is that how does a person nurture those deep relations? And this is where our role comes into. So if you look at the relationship between progress, that is material beings, material achievement, and happiness, the world is very clear now on it. So Kennedy was running his election campaign in 1969, and he spoke about GDP. His whole lecture was on GDP. So what he said about GDP was very interesting. He said that GDP measures almost everything except the fact which makes us proud to be an American. So what goes in defining good life is not measured by the material thing or material indicator like GDP. So that's the problem with the GDP. So it doesn't give you the guarantee to have a good life. And you look at the US GNP per capita has risen by the factor of 3 since 1960, but the average happiness has essentially remained unchanged. And these are the 3 different waves of survey that was done. And in each of the survey, you can see that the average happiness has actually declined over a period of time. So what Swamiji has said is very right. So science-based Western society has the legs, they are walking, but they don't have the heart. And that's the reason why they don't have the eyes to see where they are walking. So, absolutely, I'm with him that it's happening in the Western world. And it's very important. And that's the reason why you see the courses like happiness has the largest traction, and people are queuing up for these courses. They are looking for somebody to tell how to be happy. And this is one commodity which is in so much of dearth and so much of less in supply. So people are not getting happiness. So, this is a bigger issue. And it's not without reason that a Buddhist country like Bhutan talks about gross national happiness. Country like UAE talks about the future, city of the future, which is based on well-being and happiness. They have a minister of happiness already in place. They have happiness meter installed everywhere, and they're talking about it. So future is not going to be AI-based. AI is going to be all pervasive, but it's not the technology that's going to define this future for human being. It's the happiness that is going to define the future of human. And of course, in Madhya Pradesh, the state of happiness matters in Madhya Pradesh. Such a beautiful slogan. Argalji is here, so he will explain more about what they are doing in Madhya Pradesh. Let's talk about the cognitive bias of mind. The mind has a cognitive bias. So if you talk about the attention deficit, the neuroscience says that almost like 50,000 thoughts will come to you in your mind in 24 hours, approximately. And then out of this 50,000, 80% of these thoughts, like 40,000 will be negative thoughts, and about 10,000 will be positive thoughts. So your mind is biased towards negative thoughts. So if you do not do anything about our mind to train it, then what will happen? It will actually pick up negative thoughts and negative aspects or dark aspects of life. And therefore, that can be dangerous sometimes, because all negative thoughts are not bad, but extreme negative thoughts are going to kill your prospect of having good well-being. And therefore, we have to be aware of what is called the cognitive bias of mind. Now, there is something called amygdala hijack. So in the brain, if you see, your brain is in the front part. If you look at the front part, is the prefrontal cortex, which is 2.5 inch thick, and then it expands quite a lot from here to here. And then at the back of it, in the mind, there is amygdala. Amygdala is almost like the second brain in your mind. So it's always a tussle between amygdala and prefrontal cortex in your mind. So whenever you have to take a decision, you have to say something, you have to call something, you have to get onto something, you have to decide something. Amygdala will be very fast in taking the decisions. It will always come forward and say, oh, I want to do it, and do it this way. If somebody has said something to you, then amygdala will come forward, jump into it, and will say, okay, go and tell something to this person. How can he say like this? So amygdala actually is very, very active. It's a primitive brain. It's not and the prefrontal cortex is a neo brain. Neo brain means that it has been developed over a period of time. And it's developed through a series of, the long gestation of, human evolutions. So this is very interesting, that when your mind is hijacked by amygdala, what happens to it? So look at the hijacking can do to your mind. So when the hijacking happens, then it will create impulsivity. It will create narcissism in your mind. It will create short-sightedness in your mind. It will create a situation like us versus them. But if the prefrontal cortex comes into the picture and starts taking charge of your life, then you start building on planning complex behavior, suppressing socially unacceptable urges, decision-making, understanding good and bad, planning for the future, empathy, compassion. It cannot be developed without the activation of prefrontal cortex. It actually is guided by prefrontal. It's not guided by the amygdala. And therefore, we have to be aware of the amygdala hijacking, neurologically speaking. So if you look at the scanning of the brain that has been done at MIT, and people have written a lot of paper, you can see that, the negative brain has this red patch in the middle. That means it is the glowing of the amygdala that is happening in the brain. And then it's a negative brain. But in the positive brain, you see no amygdala activity. So positive brains are those who actually are able to control amygdala. It doesn't allow amygdala to hijack the brain. And then it goes back to the prefrontal cortex to decide about the life. So this is very interesting clue, because it also explains the biological root of depression. And this is so important for the new generation, like students, youngsters, and even for the mid-age people and people at all ages. You'll be surprised to see this result, with the paper which has been written is on the strange brain of the world's greatest solo climber. Look at this guy who is climbing on the mountain. His name is Alex Honnold. Alex Honnold actually does not carry anything with him while climbing the mountain, and he's a risk maximizer vis-a-vis the other climbers who will actually carry a lot of implements with them, and they will actually see that the risk is minimized in climbing. Look at where the Alex is standing. He has no fear in his brain. This simply means that Alex has a different brain in comparison to the other climbers. And in mountaineering, it is said that after 50 meters, it is called the death zone. And Alex actually stays in the death zone for about 2 hours, and which is the record so far. And if you go to Google and YouTube and search his video of climbing, after looking at his video and the kind of fear you will get after looking at his video, some people have vomited out of fear just looking at the way he climbs. So that is the kind of person he is. Just imagine what kind of brain he has. So this is the brain scan of Alex vis-a-vis the others. You look at the brain of Alex at the crosshair. If you look, there is no activity in amygdala, in his brain, absolutely inert. And if you look at the other climbers, there is a big glow the moment the fear factor was ensued. There is a lot of activity happening in the amygdala region. So this is the difference which I'm talking about neurologically, that when the amygdala comes in picture, it actually takes you backward. It takes you inside. It takes you to depression. It takes you to negativity. It takes you to all kind of fighting in the stress and fighting. So the clue to neuroscience, from neuroscience, is that how you take control of the amygdala, because this is largely going to define the difference between the fixed mindset that you can have or the growth mindset that you can have. And the growth mindset per se is the clue to happy life, because happy people are those who are always open, who are always open to possibilities, talking to others, creating good social network. They never shy away from taking risks. And there is, by doing so, there is always a new neurons that will be formed in our mind. So you look at the number of neurons, it's a 4.5 billion neuron, almost like the number of stars in the galaxy. And these neurons actually gets created when you take risk, when you take go to creativity, when you follow your habit, hobbies, when you think that you can do it, when you have this attitude of doing, not saying that, oh, it cannot be done. How can we do this? Let back and go back, and depressive symptoms. So you need new neurons in your mind all the time, because if you do not give this to your mind, then almost the old neurons are also going to die. And that's how the depression starts neurologically. So the larger question is, can happiness be learned? Answer is yes, because it's like, if I say that I wish I knew more math, the fact is, please consider this, the fact is that you don't know math today because you haven't given time to math. If you would have given more time to math, you would have known more math. Just like, I wish I had a bigger biceps. You're not having the biceps because you haven't given time to, or you haven't gone to gym. So please accept this fact. Because this is how, this is just like saying that, I'm not happy today because you haven't paid attention to happiness. If you pay attention to happiness, you can learn happiness and you can be happy. For example, if I'm asthmatic, I'm able to manage its symptom. I'm an athlete. So awareness is going to make a big difference in our life. And how we are taking happiness is that happiness is a skill to be built. And it's a skill building program. And there are many papers that has been written which says that 2 to 3 weeks of intervention of happiness can actually enhance happiness by 25% to 30%. And these are all measurable that we can. So we have to work on positive emotions. We have to work on engagement. We have to work on relationship building, meaning in life, achievement. So I'm not going to detail of it. What I'm saying is that Martin Seligman, when he talked about the positive psychology, he said that, we have to differentiate between pleasant life with the good life. A good life is not always a pleasant life. Good life is actually more than the pleasant life. And then there is a meaningful life. The meaningful life is even more than the good life. So you have to differentiate these 3 perspectives of life. So when we talk about happiness, short run versus long run or sustainable happiness, we have to look at this perspective. So, we have this something called the affective happiness, and there is something called the evaluative. So both are equally important. So when you're looking at the affective happiness, and then you're looking at the very immediate factors, like if I switch off the AC in the room, you will feel uncomfortable. And if somebody asks you the question, are you happy? You'll say, no, I'm not happy. But this is not happiness. This is a mood swing, because it's affective happiness. The mood swing is not happiness. And therefore, pleasant life is can give you the happiness, which is dopamine based, but the long-term evaluative happiness is always oxytocin, endorphin, kind of neurochemicals that you have to look at. Now, when you look at this endorphin, serotonin, for example, serotonin is so important for your body, and endorphin is a natural painkiller. So if your body doesn't have enough endorphin, then it will not allow you to heal very quickly, and that's the reason why we see that some people are actually able to face the stress very positively and they're able to handle it, but some people are not able to handle that and breaks down. So the difference is that, the neurochemicals availability in the body is very, very lopsided. So if you are actually running after dopamine based pleasure, you are in trouble, because after 30 or 40, you will see the difference in your life, and then you'll say, when you attain the age of 60, then you say, oh, happiness is eluding in my life. There's something wrong, because there are a lot of things which are irreversible and you did not take care of when you were in 20s and 30s, and that's the reason why you're not able to recover it in 60s and 70s or 50s even. So that is the tragedy of life. So we need, what is the awareness here? The awareness is that we need to know that how it works. So coming back to the happiness laboratory in my institute, we have a technology where the electrophotonic imaging camera is there, and we actually use this classic Ayurvedic concept of chakras and the energy flow. So it's based on the Eastern wisdom. And Swamiji has said that we need to combine Western science with the Eastern wisdom. And this is exactly what we are doing in my course, the Science of Happiness and Well-being. So I'm taking all the research that has been done in neuroscience, positive psychology, and other coming from the Western science, and then combining it with the Ayurveda, classic Ayurveda of chakras, meditations, and things like that to create a course. So what we are doing is that we are actually measuring all the students. We have a pre-test done before the course. And then we have this kind of profile for each student participating in the course. And then after the course, the intervention gets over. Then we again measure, take them to the laboratory and measure again. And then we can see the difference. I'll just show you the result of one class that I have taught. So this was a class of 59 students. And then what was found is that the average stress reduced by almost like 23-24% of the class stress. And then almost like 73% of the class, students in the class actually witnessed a reduction in their stress. And then there was a difference on the energy flow and the chakras balancing as well. So this is the result that we have got. And if you look at the for the individual, like case one is that of male student, you can see the pre chakras alignment and the post chakras alignment. There's a big difference that you can observe and this actually makes a lot of difference in the life of the student. This is again case two. You can see that. So before this course, this student was extremely extrovert and very susceptible to external factors. If you look at the chakras, all of them are actually balanced towards one side. And then he has been able to create a very good balance after this course. So his life has actually moved away from amygdala influence. So this is the basic approach that I'm taking. So here, female, there is a big difference. There is a lot of distractions in female's life. You can see from the chakras, the before and after. There is a big difference in the life of this student. Again, this is the second case. You can see that. This is all I want to share because there is time paucity. We also have to hear other panelists. So I'll stop here. And if there is any thing that I can supplement in response to the question, because this is such a vast topic and it's so close to my heart that if you ask me to speak, I'll speak for the whole day, right? So, I want to stop. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you talked about pleasant life, good life, and meaningful life. Right? How do we define? Or you leave it to the individual? For him, what is pleasant life, what is good life, and what is meaningful life? Very
good question, madam. So, I'll explain it through three kind of questions that we can ask about happiness. Let's say if I ask you a question, how are you? Are you happy? And then answer to this question will be what has happened to you just now. Suppose you had a tiff with your boss, you will say, no, I'm not happy. If you had a fight with your spouse, coffee spilled on you, the AC went off, you will say, no, I'm not happy. Today, it was a bad day for me. So that is the factors that you're going to consider. That's one approach. If I change my question and if I ask you, how are you these days? Definitely, all these immediate factors are not going to come into the picture because the answer to this question will be, how is your work going on? How is your family doing? How is your money wise you're doing? All these kind of domain factors will come in picture and then you will answer this question. But if I change this question again, suppose you have attained the age of 50 and then I ask you a question, look back to your life 50 years, you have lived your life for 50 years. Look back your life and tell me, are you happy? This is $1 million question that everybody has to ask, because all of us have to actually be 60, 70, 80, 90 someday. And this is the stage where this $1 million question comes in picture, which is called the evaluative question. How are you happy with your life? Now, if you start answering this question at the age of 50, 60, you are not going to look at domain, how much money you have earned, whether you had a good house, car, your family is doing well. You're not going to consider that. What you are going to consider is the purpose of life. Have the purpose of life been met? Did you have any pursuit of life which you actually followed and then you were fulfilled? I have seen people crying at the age of 90 when they have been asked this question. They said, I have earned so much of money. Everything is there with me, but I think I'm not happy because I wanted to do something for others, which I'm not able to do. I wanted to start this, I was not able to do. So, you lost the purpose. And therefore, the differentiation between pleasant life, good life, and meaningful life is the time scale. So, when you are at the lower age, like below 20 or maybe 30, and then your life starts in the mid-age. So, Harvard study actually says that the dice of life is actually rolled in the mid-age, not the childhood, right? So that's also a finding that comes from Harvard study. So midlife is so important. What you do in midlife, what you choose is going to determine how you're going to age. So, and there are something which is irreversible. When you age, you cannot reclaim it, even if you have the awareness. And that's why early awareness is very important. So it's a journey of affective to evaluative. That's one perspective to look at these three lives. Another is from the neurochemical. So I have this opportunity of asking this, conducting sessions for the corporates. So I conduct sessions for the CEOs, VPs. So one of my favorite exercises that I ask them to write 10 things. If you get, you become happy. And all of them will write 10 things. If they get, they will become happy. And I have 2,000 questionnaires analyzed. And I'll tell you the result. The result is that 8 out of 10 items that people write that will make them happy is all dopamine based. What is dopamine based, objectives of life? I want to get reputation. I want to get a position. I want to be famous. I want to go here. I want to go there. I want to buy Ferrari. I want to have a big house. I want to have reputations, good raise, go somewhere for vacation. All these are dopamine driven. And what is wrong with the dopamine driven goals of life? The wrong with the dopamine given goals of life is, it's like ice cream, right? So you seek for ice cream and you get ice cream, you eat it and you become happy. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with the ice cream. But the problem with the ice cream is that you need another ice cream, you need another ice cream, it doesn't end at one ice cream actually. So it puts you on the hedonic treadmill. So dopamine actually puts you on the hedonic treadmill. And that is what the pleasurable life does it. So if you have planned your life, out of which 80% of your objectives of life is dopamine driven, that means you have already ruined your life. Now, if you start a plan for helping others, let's say, I'm just giving an example. So you also have a plan to help others. So when you help somebody, you actually be very happy, because if you're not happy, why you're helping? Helping also gives us a lot of happiness and satisfaction, inner satisfaction. But please compare the happiness that you get from helping somebody and the happiness you get after eating ice cream are two the same feeling. Unfortunately, we realize that they're not the same feeling, but they are happy. They are happiness. Both are happiness, but they are not same feeling. Why? Because when you help others, you get oxytocin in your body. And when you eat ice cream, you get dopamine in your body. Look and behold. This is the difference in life. So, you have to work for your oxytocin, you have to work for your serotonin, you have to work for your endorphin. And it's a separate lecture I can give on what each chemicals actually does to you, and then what are the sources of these chemicals. I mean, if you look at these sources of this, how it actually gets created in your body, you'll realize that this is the clue to life. This is how we have to create life. And when we miss on it, we miss on the bigger picture. That is the good life and the meaningful life.
It's an interesting one. It can go on and on, but we have other speakers.
Absolutely.
So over to
I have one question. Ma'am, with your
Yeah, yes. Then go.
Sir, actually, you are told that about the imbalancing of chakras. So, is it we can check to your laboratory, or is there is any other way that we can check that our chakras are balanced or not? How we can do it?
or they have gone out of balance.
Please,
Yeah, so here is a bad news actually. So bad news is it cannot be done online. So you have to come over because it's a physical exercise. So we have to scan your fingers. So you have to be here for the finger to be scanned in a technology which is there in the laboratory. So I invite you to my campus. Please come over, and I'll be very happy to do this analysis for you.
So one more thing, sir, you are a person of economics. So how you shifted to economics to such a neuroscience and the happiness?
That is also a very interesting story. So I got this opportunity to teach economics in Bhutan. So there is a college, Sarabshe College. So I got an appointment over there. So I was teaching economics. And then I realized that Bhutan is a country which talks about gross national happiness. And there is a gross national happiness seminar coming up. So I participated in that seminar. And then I saw that there is a lot of economists from Cambridge and London School of Economics. They were participating in that, and they have written papers on measuring happiness and things like that. So I realized that one of the problems that they are facing is how to measure happiness. So I thought I can contribute here on the measuring side. So I did a project. I got the funding for that project from Center Bhutan Studies, and I conducted a survey, and then a group of researchers, we did the measurement of happiness. So they liked this project quite a lot, and that also gave them a clue to how to measure happiness. And from there, I started working more on something called the economics of happiness. So if you look at Halliwell, Laird, these people are big people who are working on the economics of happiness. So there is a connection between happiness. Even Amartya Sen, in his book, Idea of Justice, there is a chapter he has devoted on happiness. And he said that there is a capability approach to happiness. So two people with the same circumstances will have two different capability to be happy. So one will be more, one will be less. And then Amartya Sen was the part of the group for the measurement of the progress of the society commissioned by the French president Sarkozy. So when he was the president of France. So Amartya Sen and John Fitoussi, and there was another economist. So three economists were there. So they actually also advocated the idea that happiness can be one of the plank on which the progress can be measured. So these are some of the developments. So this was all basic economics. So I was very much, but when I joined as a director and I started working with the students, with the faculty, and I'm the director from last 11 years in Jaipur, I quickly realized that the students actually are suffering from huge attention deficit. And this is the main reason for their loss of learning. And the loss of learning is the main reason for their employability. And therefore, employability is a learning failure. And the loss of attention deficit is the reason for learning failure. So these three were actually cause and effect that I could establish. And then I looked at the faculty. I saw the faculty is under so much of pressure. They have to do assessment, they have to do teaching, they have to follow pedagogy, bring this, that, they also have to work for the lifelong learning, for the, what not we ask for the faculty. They were under so much of a stress. So then I realized that if a faculty is under stress, how can the faculty drive this, this whole system of learning? They cannot actually. The faculty is themselves under stress. They cannot be a teacher who will be able to make the students learn. That's the problem of our education system. And therefore, I started working on individual happiness. So what is happening in your life? What is happening in my life? And then I switched on to this positive psychology. So I did a course by Seligman. I also did a course on managing happiness from Harvard. Then I realized that neuroscience has a role to play. So I went to MIT, Boston. I was there in their brain and the learning program. So I started learning a lot of things. So it's all about your interest, and then I saw that a lot of things that we have actually used, because there is something called the nudges to change the behavior. So can we change the behavior of the students? Can we change the behavior of the faculty? Answer is yes, and it's a big yes. You have to put You have to push.
It's a long, I think another seminar has to be given on this. Another seminar. So,
Yes, yes.
Amit
I'd like to
Joshi,
stop
you
here.
will-
Yeah. So thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank-
So I
thank
would
you.
like to introduce